The Scum Villain's Self-Saving System, Chapter 25, Audio Source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 25, TN, unedited. Also, I changed Dream Demon's name to the Pinyin version, Meng Mo. It sounds more like a name than the sad sack literal translation lol. It's also in the translation notes below in case you forget. 3. Using miraculous flower and treasure flower interchangeably. Treasure flower is the more literal translation. Shizun. Upon first seeing Shen Qingqiu, Luo Bing'er was completely surprised and overjoyed. After all, from the beginning of the chaos, he'd already known, in his heart, Shen Qingqiu's character, and guessed that he would be worried and personally come inside the gorge to save them. After Shen Qingqiu coolly finished his kill and glided to a stop, he was met with several disciples ringing around him. He asked, "Is anyone hurt?" Luo Bing'er said, "Other than at the riverbank. Those few martial sisters and the martial brother who was stuck to death, at this moment there are no losses." Shen Qingqiu let out an "oh," and said, "It's been tiring for you." Luo Bing'er smiled slightly, his eyes brightening. "This disciple is only doing his duty." Shen Qingqiu looked at the still red-eyed Qin Wanyu. In his heart, he said, "You're still smiling. Don't you know you just lost a wife?" Upon meeting with a powerful elder coming out to rescue them, it was as though all the disciples had met their own real mother. They almost hugged his thighs and cried freely. Shen Qingqiu said, "You all do not need to be so alarmed and frightened. The sect heads outside already know the situation inside. There is also a great number of elders who have entered the enchantment to support you. All you need to do is protect yourselves. It won't be long before we'll be able to kill our way out of the heavy encirclement." His words were not only worked like a calming pill, but were also eaten with great effect by a group of little girls frightened out of their wits, and let them set their hearts at rest. Luo Bing'er said, "Shizun, what was that thing earlier?" He'd never seen such a strange thing before. If bringing up the topic of the monsters of proud immortal demon way, then he really asked the right person. With a familiarity as great as if he were naming off his own family's treasures, Shen Qingqiu said, "It's no wonder you haven't seen one before. This thing is called the ghost-head spider. Its temperament is irritable, it has hideous features, and uses its baby-like cry to attract prey. Once prey draws near, the suckers beneath the head will firmly attach itself to the top of the prey's head. Its 8 legs are sharp and can be directly inserted through the skull to suck at a living creature's brain fluids." This segment of science was completely copied from the original work. Listening to him speak with such expertise, Luo Bing'er was both admiring and amazed. So the demon realm has such evil and vicious creatures. This disciple is ignorant and ill-informed. Ever since Luo Bing'er took Meng Mo 1 as his master, the things that Shen Qingqiu could guide him in terms of cultivation became less and less. This was a rare opportunity for him to show off in front of his disciple. Shen Qingqiu was happy enough to overturn the heavens. He smiled a little. These things are of demonic origin and unused to the earth and waters of the human realm. It's already been many years since anyone has seen them. Next time if you meet one again, remember to strike directly at the temples. The spider from earlier was only a male spider. Thankfully we didn't encounter a female spider, or it would be even more terrifying." The two people hadn't spoken more than a few words when from above the heads of the crowd, in the leafy canopy, came a rustling sound. Several upside-down heads on white spider silk threads emerged from the trees. Shen Qingqiu's expression changed dramatically. Fuck, how did he forget that this thing's cry would attract a large group of similar things that would encircle them? The folded fan in his hands opened. sending out a strong wind that cut apart dozens of spiders to death and made the ghost head spiders just like overripe fruit, falling putong too, and smashing onto the ground. Shen Qingqiu shouted, "Go!" Luo Bing'er neatly responded an affirmative. Shen Qingqiu took advantage of when the ghost head spiders were thrown dizzy and concussed to run with them. One was at the front opening a path, one bringing up the rear, and a bloated group was sandwiched in the middle. Both ends slaughtered with such carnage that there was a foul wind and bloody rain. Those ghost head spiders' movements were nimble, with strong jumping abilities, flying around and jumping in mid-air. In the confusion, the sheltered disciples shot out spiritual power without results. It was like the power was wasted like water through a sieve. 3. Once he knew how to confront the enemy, Luo Bing'er was like God lending a hand. Even if he closed his eyes, he would still be able to pierce over 2 spiders at once. Overhead was a piece of carnage, filled with grieving cries and strange shouts. Still, the numbers were still too many. It would be difficult to deal with even if there was more time. Shen Qingqiu was truly worried over when that damnably strange poison would act out when his spiritual power felt sluggish and his attack struck empty. Really speaking of something and having it come. 4. Shen Qingqiu busily turned his technique into a physical attack, folding his fan and cutting the body of the ghost head spider that lunged at him into 2 halves. Luo Bing'er paid attention to the situation at his side at any moment. Once he saw there was an abnormality, he asked, "Shizun?" Shen Qingqiu said, "It's nothing." Fortunately, they had already been led by Shen Qingqiu into a special zone. The ghost head spiders seemed to encounter a formless barrier and didn't dare to continue approaching again. Instead, they clamored loudly while continuously retreating until they reached the shrubbery and canopy of the forest and disappeared. Shen Qingqiu released his breath. Qin Wanyu looked delicate and tender as she panted heavily at the side while wondering aloud. "Elder Shen, why are the monsters unwilling to advance further after we came here?" Shen Qingqiu said, "You've all forgotten. What kind of miraculous flower is growing in the midst of Judai Gorge? In fact, the person who'd forgotten was himself. Forgive him for truly not being able to remember what the name of that flower was." Luo Bing'er very thoughtfully remembered it for him. In an instant, he spoke. "Thousand-leaf cleansing snow lotus." 5. Shen Qingqiu finally knew why he couldn't remember the name of this miraculous flower before. XX Snow XX, or XX Lotus, treasure flowers with those sorts of names were so many that they far exceed the memory capacities of everyone. It would be strange if you could remember it. Shen Qingqiu. Not bad, indeed it is the thousand-leaf cleansing snow lotus. This flower has long abided in the depths of Judai Gorge for thousands of years, full of spiritual energy. It is also a natural nemesis towards demonic types. Thus, it has also become a protective barrier to make monsters withdraw. As long as you are within range of its barrier, you will not suffer too many attacks from monsters. Luo Bing'er suddenly followed up and said, "A natural nemesis towards demonic types." He had been listening raptly the entire time. When Shen Qingqiu saw that a cluster of starry fire seemed to have been lit in his eyes, a concealed light flashing, his heart felt strange. "That's correct," Luo Bing'er said. "Then, Shizun, this thousand-leaf cleansing snow lotus, would it be able to solve strong demonic poison?" Shen Qingqiu was absolutely terrified. This state of affairs, Luo Bing'er wouldn't be thinking about plucking the thousand-leaf cleansing lotus for him, right? Wait a moment. The Qin Wanyu that he plucked the flower for in the original work was right at his side here. Right now, right in front of her, you're going to pluck a flower, and a man at that? 6. Give your wife some face, all right? Shen Qingqiu quickly said, "You don't need to take notice of those things. Currently, we need to first deal with the Chris in front of our eyes." Luo Bing'er was unwilling to let it go, inviting Shizun to inform this disciple. Shen Qingqiu shook his head and said, "That thing is no use." Luo Bing'er persevered. "How can Shizun know without at least giving it a try?" This disciple knows Shizun doesn't want to let this disciple encounter danger, but if this danger isn't risked, then this disciple's heart will never be at peace. This truly isn't. Why do you have to concern yourself with an old person like me at this juncture? This old man can't tell you that the poison can't be cured unless he does the pa with you. Shen Qingqiu couldn't tell it to him clearly. His face turned cold. Has this master indulged you too often normally, that you can be wayward at a time like this? The simple, crude point was telling him to shut up. To tell the truth, these years, he had never said any heavier words to this disciple. After Luo Bing'er listened to these words, he was first startled, then obediently closed his mouth. But his gaze was still strongly stubborn, and he still refused to sheath his Zhengyang sword in its scabbard, obviously without the intention of retreating. Just when the two were deadlocked, some movements shook the field of rank silver grass at the side. Out from the grass came a person bringing disciples behind him who were in an extremely sorry plight, battered and exhausted, who'd gone through blood and slaughter. Shen Qingqiu vigilantly moved his gaze away. After coming across him, he felt like the heavens had dropped a hammer on his temples. In fact, this person's appearance could also be considered averagely handsome. Only a tiny bit of his humble origins lingered in his demeanor, impossible to get rid of. After he saw Shen Qingqiu and Luo Bing'er, he smiled and returned his Xing-bared sword into its scabbard. "So it's elder martial brother Shen. Since we've met up with you all, my heart can be reassured." Shen Qingqiu made a he sound. "Reassured? Reassured your ass. You being here isn't reassuring at all." The person in front of him was the chief culprit of the chaos. Shang Qinghua, 7. This was the person that Shen Qingqiu did a succomy over in his hut before, taking the role of Shang Qinghua. I've even entered Beda University. He was Nding Peak's Peak Lord. At the same time, he had another status, a mole during the Immortal Alliance Conference, a sleeper cell seed by the demon realm for thousands of years. Originally, Shang Qinghua was only just another one of Nding Peak's nameless little disciples. Caught by demon realm spirits, he was forced to do undercover work. No. He wasn't forced that much, he merely undertook the task of going undercover without much pressure. With the demons as his secret backing. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Shang Qinghua experienced favorable winds and favorable waters, making a meteoric rise all the way up until he finally sat upon the seat of Nding Peak's Peak Lord. However, he was still unsatisfied. Why? Because it was Nding Peak. Just by hearing this name, you'd know it wasn't some kind of ambitious place. This mountain peak's tradition and specialty was completely the same style as its name, logistics work. As a matter of course, the Peak Lord also became a piece of brick who moved wherever he was needed. Today delivering some hard work here, tomorrow bringing support supplies there. This kind of Peak Lord, was it prestigious? Was it imposing? Did it provide arrogance and swag? Did it have the dignity of a Peak Lord? Even a gifted little disciple had more prestige. So, Shang Qinghua was duty-bound to become a demon realm lapdog. Once he appointed himself as the helper for the demon realm to dominate the human realm, he did bad things. Shen Qingqiu coldly and proudly lifted his chin. "Martial brother Shang. Having come here, did you meet a large type of monster in the vicinity?" Shang Qinghua was surprised and said, "A large type of monster? As for this, there wasn't. Shen Qingqiu's heart beat loudly. There wasn't a large type of monster here was also one of the key plot props of the story. In the original work, Luo Binger's ancient heavenly demon blood was exposed because during the Immortal Alliance conference, a purple-black moon python rhinoceros 8 was let inside. For the sake of protecting everyone, Luo Binger risked his life to fight. The black moon python rhinoceros lethality was the same as its size. Of course he wouldn't be able to succeed in fighting it. If his fighting ability was not enough, what then? His blood exploded into action and was revealed. As a result, Luo Binger's blood was revealed in front of Shen Qingqiu. It was because things happened like this that Shen Qingqiu had the excuse to place righteousness above loyalty, and with one strike, hit him down. Since a while ago, Shen Qingqiu never felt the moon python rhinoceros demonic energy, much less heard the legendary, both the python and a rhinoceros howl. Now, Xiāng Tóngxiù also said that he hadn't encountered it. He couldn't help becoming vigilant. If there wasn't this key scene, then he couldn't suddenly kick Luo Binger down with no reason. He couldn't restrain himself from taking a glance at the silent Luo Binger. This child was still trying to solve the poison, thinking about the fight over picking the flower and the near-death scenario. In the midst of his stubborn gaze, there was a bit of grievance. You're feeling grievance over taking a risk while I'm doing this for your own good. It's fine if you pick a flower, but don't mix up the person you're giving the flower to. Thank you. Truly, asking a Scum villain like me to teach the male protagonist people relations is enough to make me drunk with disbelief. Xiāng Tóngxiù bitterly said, those who let the monsters in are really vicious. Along the way, not a few sex disciples were lost. Those were the future of the cultivation world. Shen Qingqiu just heard. What are you pretending for, my ass? Those monsters were all let in by you, all right? The Sukomi hadn't finished when suddenly, the earth shook without warning. Everyone wobbled east and west, overwhelmed by panic, questions flying everywhere. Shen Qingqiu pupils abruptly shrank. This kind of 7.5 quake was unmistakable. The endless abyss had finally been opened. End chapter 25. 1. Mengmu, pinyin for Dream Demon. I'm using the pinyin now because Dream Demon is a lame name lol. We should all blame Proud Immortal Demon Ways author for being so lazy with naming. XD. 2. Putong Putong, SFX for something falling onto the ground in succession. Pronounced more like Putong, Putong. 3. In the confusion, the sheltered disciples shot out spiritual power. This line was difficult for me to translate. I broke it down into 2 sentences even, but I might have it wrong. Here's the original Chinese. 4. Really speaking of something and having it come, I translated this literally, but the meaning is the same as the phrase, speak of the devil. 5,000 leaf cleansing snow lotus, pinyin is Qian Yi Jingzu Hualian. Try to translate this as literally as possible. Yes, this freaking long descriptive name only takes up like 5 Chinese characters. Yes, it's still freaking long. 6 right now, right in front of her, you're going to pluck a flower, and a man at that? Plucking a flower is a euphemism for taking someone's virginity in Chinese. This sentence is a play on words, playing on the literal meaning of plucking a flower, the treasure flower in this case, versus the euphemism. Lol. It's even funnier if you consider that Binger probably plucked the flower and immediately followed up with sexing up the sister in the original work. So Shen Qingqiu doesn't want to trigger any flags. Too late, bro. You passed go ages ago XD. 7. Xiāng Tóngxiù. Those of you who have read the new spoiler thread know who this guy is. Lol. His name translates to something like king, meaning clear, plus hua as in flower. Also, Beida, Big North University is one of the top universities in China. You might know it better as Beijing University. And Ding Peak translates literally to peaceful peak. 8. Moon python rhinoceros. In pinyin, it's Yue Mangshi. Looks something like a chimera. Tn, lol at SQQ. You were so busy being happy at being able to show off in front of your disciple that you forgot about where you were. Namely a monster invasion. PFFD. Also, be ready for heartbreak in like 2 chapters. Just saying. End chapter.